In today's episode, I want to talk about paperback abuse. Let's go. Now, the things I'm going to cover in this episode are very subjective, and you may love to do these things with your books, or you may abhor doing these things with your books. And that's cool. There's no right or wrong way to treat your paperback, but I'm going to talk about the whole spectrum. Now, if you were to have this book in its current format, the way it comes off the production line, it gets sold to you, there's definitely no dog-earing the pages. And what is dog-earing? It's when we, instead of using a bookmark or some other item to record where we are in our reading, so that when we set it down and come back later, we've got our place. They actually, dog-eared fans will bend the page down at an angle and use that as their bookmark. Now, of course, this leaves a permanent crease on the page. And for someone like me that drives me nuts, I don't want to see permanent damage to my paperback later. But that's the way some people roll. So dog-earing is one way to keep your place in a book without using a bookmark. The next thing I want to talk about is rolling your cover. When you read the book, do you curl the page down under the back portion of the book so that you can read like this? And what happens when you get to this page that's facing the cover? Do you do it like this? Some people even read like this, which is wild to me. But why is this blasphemous? It like permanently curves the cover in a way that over time, as you're reading the book, creates quite the treatment. Now, I see this a lot more with nonfiction than fiction. People like to collect their fiction books. And this oftentimes, it just is another way of showing that that book has been through the fight, you know? And they like that about their book. In other cases, people abhor it. So there you go. The next one is breaking or creasing the spine. Now, I'm not going to do that as a demo here, but I just want to show you, and I've got an example here of House of Leaves from Mark Danielewski. If you open the book so much, and let me know if you're a creaser, you do it so much that you break the spine and it creates a line down the spine. Some people look at that as like a scar. It's like a sign that they've been through this journey with this book when they've got all the creases down the spine of the book. I don't know if the quality of binding has changed so significantly over the last 40 years or so, but when I was a kid, I used to try so hard not to crease my spines, and I could never make, like, if the book was thicker, if it was a substantial book, it was almost impossible for me not to have a crease in the spine by the time I got done reading it, although I was trying my best not to. It seems like today that the bindings are better, the glue, whatever, the process is better, and it's harder to crease the spines on some of these books. You guys let me know, is that something I just think, or is that something you've observed as well? But are you a spine creaser or not? All right, now we're getting into the interior of the book, and we're going to talk about the way people capture what they're reading. Some love highlighters. And I'm not talking about nonfiction people. I'm talking about in fiction. They love to highlight their favorite lines or plot twists or some element of the story that they want to come back to later that really stood out to them. And this is obviously very common in academic or study environments where people are highlighting things that they feel like are important high points that they need to remember for future reference. But when we talk fiction, oftentimes we're talking about not a reference, right? Like, unless you're a book reviewer or using this information later to try and recall for videos or some other type like school paper or whatever, it seems like it's just a habit that's bleeding into fiction to give people something to look back on later that they might want to enjoy at another time without having to try and figure out where it was in the book. And I have never once in my life highlighted a single line in fiction. The next thing outside of highlighting would be underlining, using a pen or a pencil to underline a line or multiple lines of text within a book. Again, same purpose as the highlighter. They might be trying to highlight something that really stood out to them, some way for them to come back and look at this thing that they had read and loved or want to recall later. Of course, highlighting and using a pen are permanent, and they leave your book in a different condition than you found them in. So that's where the blasphemy comes in. Do you believe in altering the physical composition of your book with a pen or a highlighter? Let me know. Another thing people use pens or pencils for in the interior of a book is annotating, writing notes in the margins or between paragraphs or whatever in the book. Sometimes they'll use blank pages in the back of a book to write notes. Books oftentimes give you blank pages for that reason, especially in nonfiction. And some nonfiction books actually have notes sections in each chapter or section of the book for you to write at the end of that chapter or section so that you can keep your thoughts organized near the origin in the book, the original thought. It might be even like a little workbook type assignment inside the book. But man, when you start talking about fiction, that's not normally the case. And so people are annotating in the margins of fiction books just like they would in a nonfiction book if they were studying in an academic sense. So pretty wild stuff. Again, permanent alteration of the book. Now, the last practice I want to bring up is tabbing pages. Some people will tab specific paragraphs, sentences, or just the general page that they wanted to come back to later. In cases where people don't want to use pre-made tabs, people have used all kinds of stuff like tape. They'll just bend over a tab of tape and use one part of the sticky point for the page, and then the non-sticky part is sticking out. 3M stickies, I've seen people do all kinds of stuff. They'll tear them into strips and use them all over the book. And I'm not a tabber. I used to do this in nonfiction so I could study references again in academic settings or in professional settings, but not in my fiction. And a lot of people do this with their fiction. So tell us about your tabbing methodology. Do you use the top and bottom of the book for one purpose and the side of the book for another? I mean, there's got to be a million ways to do this out there, and I'm just not one of those people that does this, so let me know what you think in the comments below. So yeah, all of these are fairly common ways that people treat their paperbacks. Many of those behaviors I mentioned are permanent. They alter the paperback, and you're going to have that forever. And so I think it's a way for some people to like have some influence in the book and make it theirs, kind of ownership. And I'm just one of those people that likes my paperbacks to look perfect when I put them on my shelf at home. But a lot of people like the fact that they're worn. Now, I think one thing we can all agree on that is kind of universally thought of as a good thing is the way a paperback cures over time. The way the paper takes on a certain smell, whether it's been on your shelf or in a library or in a school or whatever. Man, when you get that old paperback and you smell that galley between the pages, the aging paper, it just does something magic to books, man. I absolutely love opening one of my old paperbacks and smelling the pages. And I just feel like such a weirdo saying that, but I know you're a weirdo like that too. So I feel like I'm in a safe place here. Tell me what you guys think. Is there something about paperbacks I didn't cover that you guys would automatically jump at? What are the weirdest things you've seen people do to their paperbacks? I would love to hear all of these things. Hey, and thanks for tuning into another video here in the Bookish Blasphemy playlist. I'm Lucas, publisher, writer, bookseller, owner of Spineless Reads here in Williamsburg, Virginia. We're an indie fiction bookstore, and I just find all of these topics so much fun. It gives us something really cool to interact about. Leave your comments down below. Are there things I did or didn't mention that you are passionate about? Do you think my points are crazy? Do you think other people do stuff to their paperbacks that I didn't list here that you'd like to talk about? My only request is that you guys be cool with each other. Everybody's here to have fun, and leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them. All right. I'll see you guys in the next video.